Hello everyone, I decided to tack on this message announcing a change that I am implementing for the rest of my reviews covering the remainder of Season 1 of Star Trek Discovery. So here's the deal. I have already recorded my synopsis and thoughts on episodes 11, 12, 13, and 14. However, the way in which I do these videos is a very lengthy process, especially since I have a full-time 9 to 5. So I've decided that I will be giving a more brief, spoiler-filled synopsis instead of my more lengthy, scene-by-scene synopsis. Although I have recorded the audios for episodes 11 to 14, I've yet to work on editing them. So from here on out, there will be considerably shorter synopses, but I will still go heavy on my thoughts on the various things that I have noted in that particular episode. Last thing I would like to touch on is that when I do finally get around to doing the episode 15 review, I may decide to do a full synopsis since it's the season finale. I hope that this decision will get me back on track with my uploads, and I hope you guys understand and don't have any issues. But anyways, thanks so much for your understanding, and please enjoy the review. Hey everybody, and welcome to another Star Trek Discovery review for episode 10, Despite Yourself. So before we go any further from this point, please keep in mind and remember, as always, there will be spoilers in this episode. So please, if you have not watched the episode yet, turn away now. If you don't care about spoilers or have already watched the episode, please feel free to continue watching. So let's start off with my initial thoughts. As I've stated very rarely before, this episode was great. Very well done and very entertaining and very surprising. Everything a Mirror Universe episode of Star Trek should be. And at no point during this episode did I ever feel things were moving too slow. Also, nothing really bothered me in this episode canon-wise, which is a big change. Bottom line, this episode was great. Alright guys, let's go over the synopsis. This episode starts off where we left off in the debris field. The crew is scrambling to figure out where they are and what is going on. Saru explains that according to the nav sensors, they arrived at their intended destination, but nothing seems to be where it should be. Tyler walks onto the bridge, and for no reason, Saru's threat ganglia come out. Sensors pick up a Vulcan cruiser approaching them. The Vulcan ship raises its shields, arms their weapons, and then the Vulcans open fire on Discovery. The Vulcans get hit by another ship that we quickly learn is coming from what they believe to be the USS Cooper. The Cooper's captain makes some comments towards Discovery and refers to the Vulcans as rebels, and adds that they will take care of them. We learn that Lieutenant Stamets is non-responsive and that the spore drive is offline. We learn from Saru that the quantum signature of the Cooper and the Vulcan ship was inconsistent with their own. Burnham comments that was not possible because all matter within their universe resonates with the same quantum signature and nothing can change it. Lorca agrees with this, but also suggests that perhaps they are no longer in their universe. In Lorca's ready room, Lorca explains to Burnham and Saru that he had a theory that the spore drive could take them to other universes, something he came to believe as he recorded data from all their previous jumps. He adds that he showed this data to Stamets prior to the last jump, and adds that Stamets was going to pursue this with Lorca once the war was over. Burnham points out that as long as they're stuck in this universe, they won't be able to send the cloak-breaking algorithm to Starfleet. Lorca ends the meeting. He agrees they need to get back, but points out what was most important now is that they learn where they are so they can survive. In sickbay, we see Stamets muttering to himself about what seems to be random nonsense. Lorca enters, gets an update from Dr. Kolber. We learn that there is something seriously wrong with Lieutenant Stamets. In an accusing tone, Kolber suggests that pushing him to do these jumps is the cause. Although Kolber protests against this, Lorca removes Kolber from Stamets' care because he was emotionally compromised and orders that another doctor will be taking his place. Later we see Tyler piloting a shuttle pod out in the debris field to retrieve a Klingon data core. The hope is to use it to gain any information they can from it to learn about the universe they are in. Tyler starts to deviate from his flight path because he's having more torture flashbacks. He snaps out of it thanks to Burnham, retrieves the data core, and heads back to the ship. While back at the ship, Tyler confronts L'Rell in the brig. He demands that she explain what she did to him while he was her prisoner. She agrees to answer his questions if he lets her out of the cell. He actually agrees to this, and she makes a motion towards him as if she was going to give him a kiss. He almost lets it happen, but he ends up pinning her up against the wall and starts to strangle her. She breaks free and starts speaking in Klingon. She asks him a series of questions in Klingon, to which Tyler actually responds back in Klingon. Whom do we seek? He responds, Kahless. She asks, how do we find him? He responds, together. She comments, Kahless gives them light to see. He adds, forever. She asks, will he hide from us always? He responds, never. Then she asks, what is your name? This causes him to snaps out of whatever trance she seems to have him in, and pulls his phaser out, aiming it right at her face. He demands once again to know what she did to him, and that if she did not, he would hear her scream it while he watches her die. L'Rell claims that the prayer she just recited should have triggered his memories, and that something has gone wrong. He snaps out of it again, and shoves her back into the cell, turns on the force field, and runs out of the brig. Back in the engine room, we learn that Tilly has accessed the data in the Klingon data core. Burnham notes that the casing of the core is Klingon, but that the data chips inside is of a Vulcan design. After reviewing the data, Burnham shares her findings with the senior staff. She confirms that they are in fact in a parallel universe, but one not governed by the Federation, by a human-only organization known as the Terran Empire. She adds that the Terrans appear to be the antithesis of them in every way. They're an oppressive, racist, xenophobic culture that dominates all known space, and that they are ruled by a faceless emperor. She explains the ships out in the debris field are actually part of a rebellion that is made up of all non-human species. She explains that the rebellion fears and mistrusts humans, and that they're fighting for their freedom. She ends her report by stating that the Terran culture appears to be predicated upon an unconditional hatred and rejection of anything and everything other. The briefing gets interrupted with an intercom message for the captain to report to the bridge. The ISS Cooper has returned and is wanting to speak to the captain. Lorca was about to respond, but Burnham cuts him off, explaining that she just checked the crew manifest for the ISS Discovery and that he was not on it. We learn that Cadet Tilly is the captain. After brushing aside the absurdity of that revelation, the captain orders Tilly to take command and act as if she was the captain. Tilly does this in a very Tilly way, which is awkward. But it works. The Cooper leaves and Discovery is safe. Lorca explains for them to survive that the ship and crew need to look the part. He orders Saru to make sure that the ship and crew are ready. We go through a montage of the crew changing their uniforms, computer readouts, and even the name of the ship from USS Discovery to ISS Discovery. In the end, they gotta make sure that everything about their ship screams Terran Empire. Burnham is coaching Tilly on her role, getting her to understand what her counterpart is like in this universe. She even shares some of the colorful nicknames that Captain Tilly has in this universe, such as the Slayer of Sornia Prime, the Witch of Werna Minor, and Captain Killy, to which Saru comments that the last one was not very clever, as he pins the captain's badge to her Terran uniform. In Lorca's ready room, we learn from Burnham that her counterpart was presumed dead, and that Lorca was the suspected killer. We learn that Lorca was trying to overthrow the Emperor. We also learn that Burnham was captain of the Shenzhou in this universe. Back on the bridge, Lorca presents info that he found in the database that might help them get back to their own universe. He explains that they were not the first ship from their universe to arrive in this mirror universe. The USS Defiant made it over. He points out that the Defiant has no spore drive, meaning they came here by other means. The plan is to make contact with the ISS Shenzhou, and Burnham and Lorca will pose as their counterparts in an attempt to get info on the Defiant. Saru is not a fan of this idea and tries to talk them out of it. She explains that the idea is to claim she faked her death so that she could pursue Lorca. She will be bringing Lorca aboard the Shenzhou as a bounty to be given over to the Emperor. Saru backs down. Lorca adds that Tyler will be Burnham's personal guard. After speaking to Laurel earlier, Tyler goes to speak to Dr. Kolber. He asks him to run more intensive scans on him to make sure everything was okay. He did not want to be a liability on this mission. Stamets, from across the room, starts yammering about a palace and how they should not enter it. Dr. Kolber approaches him and gives him a kiss. This suddenly knocks Stamets back to reality, his white eyes going back to normal. He says that the enemy is among them, and then his eyes go back to being white. Back on the bridge, Burnham gives Tilly a pep talk, and they proceed with the mission. Tilly orders the comm officer to contact the ISS Shenzhou. They do, and a familiar face to Burnham appears on the screen. It is a man by the name of Connor, Burnham's ops officer from the Shenzhou, who was last seen at the Battle of the Binary. Tilly explains that they came across someone that might interest them. Burnham walks up with a bound and beaten Lorca. Connor is surprised to see Burnham alive. Burnham orders the Shenzhou to rendezvous with Discovery so that she can take command and bring the traitor Lorca aboard. Back in sickbay, Kolber is going over the scans he ran of Tyler. He points out that all his organs have massive scar tissue surrounding them. Kolber adds that the words that best describe what the Klingons did to him was bone-crushing. They opened up his limbs, and they shortened his radius, his femurs, and even his spinal cord. Kolber explains that it seems that the Klingons have transformed him both mentally and physically. Tyler gets up and says he's needed on the mission, and goes to leave. Kolber stops him and says he wasn't going anywhere, and goes on saying that, as far as he was concerned, Tyler wasn't Tyler. Suddenly, Tyler could hear somebody speaking Klingon, and he very quickly grabs Kolber by the head, breaks his neck, killing him instantly. The Shenzhou finally arrives. In the transporter room, Lorca leaves Saru in charge and boards the transporter pad, followed by Burnham and Tyler. Tyler was late and apologized to Lorca. Lorca explains that there were to be no more apologies, that they are Terrans now. They must do everything and anything to anyone in order to return home and save the Federation, and they beam over. They are greeted by Captain Connor. They take Lorca to the brig, where Connor was about to subject Lorca to an agonizer booth. They get there, and she orders the guard to see to it that Lorca was installed properly. Burnham and Connor head to her ready room. They board a turbolift, where Connor explains that he almost did not become captain, that the crew followed him, but not like they did with her. He wanted them to fear him, and adds that he thinks he knows what to do. He grabs his dagger and attacks Burnham. They struggle for a bit, but Burnham gets the upper hand on Connor and runs him through with his own dagger. She stares into his eyes as his life slowly slips away, and then the turbolift doors open. Connor's lifeless body drops to the ground. The entire bridge crew turns around and sees this as Burnham walks onto the bridge. She stares at the crew, and they all start to clap for her. She is given the captain's chair by the first officer, and she takes her seat. And the entire bridge crew yell out, "Long live Captain Burnham! Long live the Empire!" The episode ends with Lorca in an agonizer booth, screaming in agony. Well, that was the episode, guys. Yeah, let's go over the things I noted. Mirror freaking universe. We got the mirror universe, guys. It's the mirror universe. It's supposed to be the mirror universe. Obviously, things don't look right because this is a visually rebooted show, so they say. So we'll take that into consideration. But yeah, so far pretty exciting. The montage where you saw them switching into Terran Empire uniforms and adjusting their computer readouts and changing the ship from USS to ISS. It was all very, very, very well done. And I really enjoyed this. I'm glad that the Mirror Universe is here. I feel like that this episode and the coming episodes might be the salvation of this show. It's just my prediction for the moment. We'll see if I'm right. As I mentioned before, there is an episode that was directed by Jonathan Frakes that involved the Mirror Universe, and it was this episode, and it shows. This episode, I felt, was well handled. The pacing was really good. Nothing got slow. It was a steady build up from beginning to end, ending in a blast. It was just a really great episode. It felt like Jonathan Frakes directed it. Honestly, I don't think that man can do any wrong, with the exception of Insurrection. But there were a lot of factors behind that. It wasn't just Jonathan Frakes. But still, Jonathan Frakes directed this episode, and it shows. And honestly, I wish they had him as a director for the rest of the series. But yeah, great episode. Lorca. I'm telling you, man, there's something up with this guy. He's lying again. In the scene where he's explaining that he had a theory that the spore drive could potentially take them to different universes through the mycelial network, and that he explained this to Stamets. He says that Stamets had said that he was interested. He agreed to continue pursuing this theory with Lorca once the war was over. And as the viewers, we know this is not true. Stamets has no interest in using the spore drive anymore. When they spored into this universe, it was supposed to be his last jump. They were supposed to arrive at Starbase, and he was supposed to get medical attention, and he was done. So Lorca's lying again. Why is he lying? Well, he, as I pointed out in my last episode, he totally overrided the coordinates and made them go to this universe. Mind you, I don't know why he did it. I don't know if he did it because he wanted to escape Starfleet, because he was afraid they were going to take his ship back now that Admiral Cornwell was recovered by the Klingon from the Klingon ship and brought back. She had originally said that she was going to take his command because he wasn't all up there in the head right now. But if his idea was to hide in a different universe, he could have picked a better universe. I don't think he realizes what he's getting himself into here. The mentioning of the USS Defiant. I think the episode was called Tholian Web. In the original series, the USS Defiant got attacked by Tholians. The Enterprise goes and investigates. They board the ship. The ship is kind of phasing in and out of the space-time continuum, and the ship eventually disappears. And back in the 60s, we were led to believe that the ship was lost with all hands. In a Star Trek Enterprise episode, In Mirror Darkly, we learned that the USS Defiant actually traveled back in time and into the Mirror Universe, where the Tholians of that time got their hands on it. And Captain Archer finds out, Commander Archer, in the Mirror Universe, he's a commander. Commander Archer finds out about this, and he wants to get his hands on it so that he can become a captain and take over the Terran Empire. And that's what happens to the Defiant. And they've incorporated that part of canon into this episode, which I think is fantastic. They're acknowledging the fact that the ship did in fact go back in time, and that it still exists, and it's, as you can see in this picture, been totally redone by the Terran Empire. It definitely doesn't look like the original Constitution class that it did. Really happy that they did this. I'm curious if this episode and the episodes to come are the episodes that were affected by the rewrites. Because, as a lot of us know, there was a lot of fan backlash after the first couple of episodes of Discovery, and they did a lot of rewrites, and they also added an episode or two to fix those issues and make fans happy. Maybe this is one of those episodes. I'm not entirely certain. All I know is I really enjoyed it. And I really love the mentioning of the Defiant. I hope we get to see the Defiant, see what a Constitution class looks like in this universe. I mean, if they're smart, they will not mess with how the Constitution class looks like, because we know what that ship looks like. It's supposed to look a certain way. And if they've discovered any bit of it, I'm going to be pissed. But time will tell, maybe. Maybe it's the Emperor's ship. That'd be cool. Yeah, alright. That's it, everybody. That's everything I noted. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Did you like this episode? Was it enjoyable? Let me know. So let's rate this episode. Like I mentioned before, great episode. I really enjoyed it. Jonathan Frakes directed it, which is why it's so goddamn good. Honestly, 5 out of 5 in my books. One of my favorite episodes so far. What do you guys think? Let me know. Do you agree? Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Don't forget to follow me on all my various social medias. Links are in the description and on the screen here. And yeah, don't forget to do that so you can stay up to date with what I'm doing. Alright, everybody, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, you can give it a thumbs down. If you like this video and want to see more videos like it, click on that subscribe button, and don't forget to click on that bell notification button so that you'll be notified when I upload new stuff. And as always, please feel free to check out my other videos. Alright, everybody, see you next week. Live long and prosper.